professor in the past.
Back at it.
I know. I don't even know how long it's been. I'm scared to look. It's been a long time since
It
we've
has
been.
been.
But
yeah, it has been.
It took quarantine to get us moving again.
Exactly. Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's true. That silver lining, man. I'm trying to look at the silver lining in all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny. I don't know, a little inside baseball, but, one of the reasons that I struggled with it when we were doing it before was the video and the audio. And there were some things that just took so much time that I was like, I need to figure out how to do this better. But if nothing else, having to do a lot of this stuff for church, going online and everything has made me figure some stuff out. So, so we're doing it via Zoom. So we're social distancing.
Yep.
And are you at home right now? Is that your
Yep,
house?
I'm up in the mountains, man. I am up in the mountains. So we'll hope, just pray that the connection stays, because I have horrible internet here. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if that happens, we'll switch over. Actually, I probably should have hotspotted it before we started, but
well, so far so good.
So far so good.
So far so good.
Yeah, man.
So we figured we'd talk a little bit about how we're surviving the stay-at-home order and that kind of stuff. I know you with Peak and has totally changed everything, and I mean,
it's crazy.
Almost essentially said shut the gym down, pretty much. I mean, you guys are still doing some stuff, but man, it's different.
Yeah, I think it was either March 16th or 17th, whenever the order came out from Polis. Yeah, we shut the doors down and just went 100% virtual, probably like you're doing, and started doing Zoom classes and Facebook Live and YouTube and stuff like that. And I'm not a tech guy, as you know. I mean, I can barely tie my shoes, but it was so I'm really grateful and blessed. I've got an amazing staff, and so we were able to kind of pick and pull the people that had those skill sets, and lo and behold, of course, they're the younger people, right?
Yeah.
So they so it was really good. So they kind of stepped up, and we're able to get our online university going and our Zoom and all that kind of stuff. But it's definitely not a space that I like a whole lot. I like, I'm in Jiu Jitsu. I like touching people. I like hugging people. I like saying hi. I like interacting with people. So the virtual thing's really different for me, for sure.
Well, yeah. And, in a lot of ways, it's easier for us as a church. We had to do the same thing. We pivoted, went from, meeting in person to everything's online. We're doing our small groups, our Zoom, our streaming on Facebook and YouTube and other stuff on our Sunday morning services and the whole thing. But jiu-jitsu is a different animal, man. I mean, if you can't put your hands on it, you can only take the back of your kitchen chair so many times,
Yeah, exactly. There's only so many like leg drags you can do on a dummy.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's totally different. But
what's cool is I see your son's getting some more training in now, so that's good. I mean,
I know.
He's exactly a movable dummy.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was like, I'm going to start rolling with him a little bit, and taught some classes and stuff, and living room floor, trying to get him back into it. We bought a heavy bag. We're going to be hanging that up, and we haven't got. I just got it, so we haven't gotten it hung up yet. But get that hung up, and honestly, that's like Joe, he's not doing baseball or anything, so he's going to do some jiu-jitsu Muay Thai stuff. So,
there you go. Good.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, you got to look at the silver lining, man. I mean, that's the thing that I've noticed too in this whole thing is, the videos we play up on the screen and stuff. I mean, me and Tyson shot those a couple of years ago, and we've been talking about forever, like, hey, we need this online university, and we're going to give our members access so they have all the blue belt curriculum and they can just log in, and because the beginner jiu-jitsu follows that whole curriculum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously with the advanced, we branch off and we do more competitive drills and advanced drills and stuff like that, but that's like our entire blue belt curriculum, which is like 2 years, is already been filmed, and we've talked about for years making an online university, giving people access so they could study at home, and reinforce the stuff they're learning in class. And we just stalled on it. We haven't done it. So silver lining is we're actually finally doing a lot of the stuff that we talked about doing, which is great. So you got to look at the positive.
Yeah. So how are you guys doing? Like, how are you attacking this whole, stay at home thing? I mean, obviously it's changed how you do business. It's changed jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. but like even on a personal level, keeping sanity, working out, different things. Like I'm just curious what you're doing to kind of, because I know for us, man, I mean, it's changed how we do a lot of things, and in some ways for the better. But I'm curious what are you doing?
Man, I'm trying to work out every day. I'm trying to stay busy. It's a little tough because, I'm recovering from my ACL.
Yeah.
So, I'm just doing weights, kettlebells. We've got like a little stand-up bag, like the Century stand-up bag.
Yeah.
Down in our basement. So we turned that into a workout room. I can't jog. I can't run yet. So I haven't been cleared to do that. So, so that's out. But I can mountain bike. So I've been fortunate enough to do some mountain biking. So I've been mountain biking. But I'm not a home person. It's funny because, I bought a house where I kind of was, I've got some property, and it was supposed to be kind of a refuge, but then I realized after I bought it, I'm not a home person at all. So I'm literally never home. Like, me, I'm at the gym all day, every day till 9-10 o'clock at night, every night. And then I come home, I chillax for a couple hours, go to bed. And then as soon as Friday hits, I'm the guy that my truck's already packed, and I'm literally like, as soon as I get home after Friday, which is our shorter day, I get in my truck and I'm gone. I'm hunting, or I'm fishing, or I'm doing something, camping, riding my motorbikes. So it's been a real struggle for me. I mean, even though I'm super busy, as I'm sure you are, because we're having to learn this new platform, and I'm trying to keep the staff motivated and connect with them every day. I'm still bored. It's this weird thing where I'm like, just as busy as I've ever been, but I'm also like bored and restless, and it's a weird feeling.
Yeah. Is Coach K more at home person, or not really?
Oh no, she's a hobbit, bro. She could be here. She is here. She loves it. She loves hanging out at home. That's like her refuge. So, I think for sure it's easier for her than it has been for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we kind of, I mean, like I said, I actually, like, I still go to the coffee shop I go to, like I go to every day. Part of that's just because it's, they got to be struggling, man. I mean, and I want to support them. And so I go, buy coffee. I can't obviously go in and sit down and do all those kinds of things, but I just want to be supportive. So I pretty much every day go to the coffee shop, get my Americano, go back home, do my social distancing thing, and work from home, and, get mad at the dogs and the kid and the wife and everybody who's bugging me, because I have nowhere to go. Actually, my wife comes in here, which is kind of her office, because she's working at home. So she's like in here all day, which I have no office here then. So I'm out on the dining room table. And
yeah, that's right. I'm literally on my dining room table right now. That's where I'm shooting from.
Nice.
Because I don't, Kirsten has an office, which is funny, but I don't have an office. So same thing, I've been, we had a little poker table set up over here that we had like a UFC party. So we put up a poker table like in the middle. And so literally for like the first 3 weeks, and we just now starting to lag.
Yeah. You freaked out there for a minute.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So so then we got rid of that, and now I'm just at the dining room table. So same thing. Temporary living.
Yeah. Yeah. How is this, how is being in your, not, you can't go camping, you can't go hunting, maybe go fishing. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm kind of a warm weather guy. So I haven't fished yet, but spring's starting to break. I don't know. We'll see how the rivers are looking, but yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing, right? Because it's like stay at home. You need to go out and get sunshine, but then a lot of it's closed, so you got to be careful. You got to, so it's been an interesting adaptation for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I know for me, because Jiu Jitsu is such a big part of kind of my workout and all that kind of stuff. And, man, so I go running every day, and not every day. I run 5 days a week. My body needs a couple of days off. My knees, even today, my knees were hurting pretty good. But I missed a couple of days ago because it was snowed like crazy. So I was like, I think I'll take today off. So I need to make it up today. But anyways, so I've been running, and that's really helped me. It's and I'm not a huge runner like some people at the gym, who, like Zach or somebody like that, who can just go out and knock out a marathon one day just because he feels like it. Or I wish I was exaggerating when I said that kind of stuff, but I'm not.
No, you're not.
No. And, you know, for me, it's like I go run 5 miles and that's, you know, that's pretty good. And so I've been running a lot more, but man, I don't know. I miss the contact. I miss all that stuff. And I guess my sanity in some ways is found other ways to, you know, old hobbies and things. I started picking up my guitar. I haven't picked up my guitar in a really long time.
Cool. Yeah,
As
that's
a
cool.
matter of fact, I bought a guitar and I just because the guitar I had was a piece of junk, and I used to have nice guitars, and when I wasn't playing that much, I got rid of them. But all of a sudden, I start playing. I'm like, I hate this guitar. I need a good guitar. So I'm wondering if you picked up any old hobbies or anything like that, like if that's something you've done or.
Yeah, I mean, not old hobbies, but I've been shooting my bow a lot when it's nice out. We built, you know, one of our, you know, brown belts, Tyson, works at an axe throwing place. And so I built an axe throwing target at my house. I've been throwing axes. Yeah, so just kind of tuning in some stuff, you know, like that, you know, no musical habits or anything like that. No, none of those old hobbies, but.
But you shooting a bow, compound bow, or?
Yeah. I shoot a compound. I hunt with it. So and it's getting close. You know, usually I kind of start this anyway.
Yeah.
You know, typically what I'll do, because my hunt season's around September. So what I'll do is I'll usually train spring, September, or rather spring, summer, get ready for it. You know, start getting dialed into my bow, shooting, you know, 100 arrows a day or whatever. So, you know, I've had a little more time to do that, I guess. So.
You say you don't sound that excited about it. You're like, I guess.
No, it's kind of cool. No, it's, you know, it's kind of like that thing like you talked about earlier. Like, man, it's so great. I get to spend more time with my wife and my family. And I don't have children, but I'm sure it's probably kind of like the same thing where it's like, man, I love you, but I'm not used to spending 12 hours, 16 hours a day with you.
Right?
Know? Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's the thing, you know, I don't know how far you want to get into this, but it's interesting because I keep, you know, I don't know anything about the medical side of this whole Corona thing. I don't know. As a matter of fact, I'm convinced that most of the people who think they know don't know much about it, if I'm to be honest. But so I don't know what the right decisions are, but I just keep thinking as I watch this whole thing. I think about, you know, we talk about being at home and spending time with the kids and the family, or, you know, just being with your wife, and I worry about. As a matter of fact, we have now, you know, records of this, that like spousal abuse, child abuse, you know, skyrocketing, suicides going up because people who are prone to anxiety and depression, you know, all of a sudden they have no outlets, no networks to kind of work through whatever they're working through. And then you compound that with people losing jobs and losing income. And we've been really blessed. We haven't had to face that so far. But people are, and man, I just keep wondering, you know, at what point the cure becomes worse than the sickness, you know?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you know, we've had 400 deaths or something like that in Colorado, or somewhere around that range.
Yeah, I don't even know. I stopped watching news it's weird because I got more opportunity to watch news now, and now I avoid it, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. You know, but I've seen that, you know, it's such a complex issue. And I think that's like the biggest problem with this issue is it's so visceral, it's so complex, because of course every human life matters. And so my mother died probably 3 or 4 years ago, and she died of COPD, which is, you know, basically a cardiopulmonary disease, right? And 100%, if she was still around, I couldn't see her. There's no way. I mean, I probably wouldn't even be able to deliver groceries to her. You know, she'd have to be really, really protected. You know, and that's what she ended up dying of. You know, even and I don't know exactly, and they, you know, they didn't exactly diagnose what, but it could have been a flu. It could have been, you know, that maybe she got tired. She also had asthma. You know, so there was multiple compounding factors of what happened with her. And so she would be in that class of, you know, immunocompromised, She was 74 when she died, elderly. In addition, she had, particularly respiratory disease, so she had problems there. So I really, really feel for them and for the people that are affected and their families, their grandchildren, their spouses, all that kind of stuff. But like you said, it's so complex because the suicide rate is going hugely up. I think it's 1% for every 100,000 people that are unemployed. That increases. Divorce is way up. I've heard that a lot of hospitals, because of the COVID patients, haven't been able to see normal patients they would. It then expired. So, I mean, it's just so complex of, what is the ratio of risk versus reward, right? It's a really complex issue. And I think anyone that's looking at it not that way,
right,
just, hey, we need to shut it down because people are dying. Well, you got to look at all these other multitude of factors, like you said, the domestic violence and the suicide, drinking, I'm sure has gone way up.
Yeah.
That's an essential business. You got to have out, liquor stores, that's essential. And, all these compounding factors of like, gosh, man, like that's a lot to weigh. Right.
Yeah.
And so when does the scale tip?
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned the drinking thing, and I didn't even mention that. But man, I think about, and I've never been a big drinker, but I'll have a drink on occasion, and and there's been a couple periods of my life where I maybe drank on a regular basis, but still never a lot. I never got drunk or anything like that. But I sit here and I think about the person who has that in their life as something that maybe there's been an addiction in the past, or maybe they just are prone to it because of family or things like whatever, and all of a sudden they got all this time, and what's open? Well, the liquor store's open, and I lost my job, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I guess I might as well start drinking. About that whole it's 5 o'clock somewhere thing starts pretty early, if you know what I'm saying. All of a sudden
it does, and I have people I know that, I mean, they're like, yeah, I'm drunk by like 9 a.m. and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, wow.
Right.
Like, I can't even imagine, but normally where they would do their whole day, work hard, make a living, whatever, support their family, whatever it is. And then, they get home at 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night, and then they crack a beer or whatever, but there's no reason to be sober. They don't have no accountability. So they're like, well, okay.
Might as well get wasted.
Yeah. It's horrible, man.
Yeah.
It's a complex issue. I think it's really, we'll see. I really hope, again, I think that the people that are at risk should stay home and social distancing, be careful, but I really hope we can reopen soon, because again, I think that balance is starting to shift.
Yeah.
And I really hope that businesses can open. I really hope that we can get back to normal as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about you, and I'll go out on a limb here a little bit, and just, some of the stuff that, I hear in the news, and like I said, I've been avoiding the news, but I'll turn on the news a little bit. I have to, because I have to stay up to some degree. I'm not tracking Corona deaths or anything like that, but I have to know what the orders are in Colorado because of church and stuff like that. So I have to know what we can, what we can't do, so that we can continue to operate in the best way. So I do try to stay up on that stuff. But I'm always amazed when I'll turn on the news or whatever, or I'll start reading something, and it's and it doesn't matter who it is. It's whether it's Polis or our governor here in Colorado, or it's somebody else, and they're always saying, well, we got to stay shut down, we got to save lives, and I'm always a little bothered by that kind of rhetoric, because it makes it sound like the only lives to consider are those that would be affected by Corona directly through the disease, not those that are affected by shutting down. And it just seems so short-sighted to me that I'm very worried about some of our politicians who are making these decisions, and quite frankly, the medical experts, whoever they are, who see the medical side of things, but quite frankly, they're not psychologists or sociologists or economists or any of those other things. And one of my favorite quotes from a guy named Thomas Sowell, who's one of the intellectual elites, I guess. I don't know. he's super good, but he always says, expertise is not transferable. And in other words, you might understand the medical side of this, but you can't just because you're smart and you understand that doesn't mean that you understand the economics or the sociology or the psychology or whatever. And I get really, really, really worried about that. And even within our church, and the people that we minister to, man, there's a lot of people that are hurting. And then a mom passes away, or a relative or somebody they love passes away, or we had an elderly guy slip and fall and break his clavicle
Wow.
just yesterday, and I can't go see him, and how are they, he's over at St. Anthony's Hospital. Wow, they're not letting people in that hospital. The guy's, he's elderly, he's single, he's alone, now what? It's going to have a toll on our society, and I'm really worried about it.
Yeah, I'm worried about too the economic effect. And again, it's like, I think it's really funny too, because I think that, I think that's really cool. I think that's why we get along so well, is like, right, you're the pastor that's also a coach. You're a purple belt in Jiu Jitsu, and it's like, I think a lot of people can't reconcile that. Well, how do you like hurt people and choke them out, but like you're loving and you're a man of God and you support people. And it's like, I think that's what's so great about when you really get into something, is there's always two sides to the coin, right? There's the heads and the tails of everything.
Yeah.
And so, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so again, it's like, how do you balance that of, well, there's the economic side, but just because you're talking about economics doesn't mean you're a bad person and all you care about is money. Yeah. Well, again, we already talked about the greater ramifications, the up in suicide, divorce, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But just in addition to that, the economy is important for American society. It's so important because just imagine all of the businesses that are going out of business, right? And then not only just unemployment, but now you have a spike in our entire society, right? I mean, the economics of America is what kind of keeps us being American, right? You said, thank God you can at least go in and get your Americano every day. But, that's part of our society. And I would say all societies, but particularly a capitalist, democracy like America, and I think, again, it's just, the ramifications are so huge. And I think if you talk, and I had someone the other day yell at me because, I mentioned the economics, and they're like, you're an evil person. You don't care about people. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, there can be a duality. It's okay. You know what I mean? Be a man of God and still choke people out. It's okay. Like, you know what I mean? It's not just black and white. There's so much gray in the world. Yeah. And, it's funny that people can't see that, and they only just pigeonhole like one particular point you're meeting, or, one hat you put on that day. Right. And we all roll, we all wear different hats every day, right? You have different roles in society. I mean, you've got, right. You've got your church role, and you've got your jiu-jitsu role. You've got, I'm sure, your family and your father and your husband role, just like I do. And it's like, why can't you see the complexity of the different roles, you know, and how that plays into this particular issue, right?
Yeah, and not only how it plays into this issue, but how those roles interconnect, right? Like, so I think about the economic thing, and we can talk about how that's going to affect our economy. But if you go back, you look at which I've done this, and you go back and you look at the years following the stock market crash in 1928, and all of a sudden, or 1929, all of a sudden suicide rate goes up, right? So the economy affects those things too, right? So people find value, and you don't have to agree with it. You can say, well, they shouldn't, but they do. They find value in their ability to provide for their family. They find value, their identity in their job. Sometimes if they aren't able to go to work and make a living. Or I saw a news clip of a business owner, apparently a pretty good sized business, and he had to go in and lay off. I think it was like 300 and some employees. It might've been, I keep thinking 600, but I'll just go with the 300 number. It doesn't really matter. It was a lot of employees, and he's sitting there crying his eyes out because he had to do this, and he had no answers for them. He had to lay them off and say, I can't pay you anymore. My business can't pay you anymore. And now you've got hundreds of people who found their identity in their job and their ability to contribute to society. And now those people are going to go home And, you know, and then you have all these other things. And I'm really nervous about this too. And as a matter of fact, Biden mentioned this the other day, although it's sometimes hard to lay my cards on the table, understand that anything he says, so much what he says is so incoherent. But anyways, but he said something about, well, FDR did this or whatever, and, you know, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I was like, oh no, he wants to go down the FDR path. And I've, man, you know, I'm not an expert, but I've done quite a bit of reading about that time period. And I'm like, that, it was not good. He made the Depression last a decade when it could have lasted a year or two, you know, or 18 months or 2 years. And because of those kinds of policies. And I see our government starting to go down that same road, and like, oh, here's a few $1,000s stimulus, you know, oh, and then what we're paying people now to sit on their couch and do nothing. They're not contributing to society. And I'm not even against necessarily the stimulus. I'm not even sure but if we continue to do that, then that's going to be a problem. And I'm really worried about how the long-term effects, you know, and what's the long-term going to be 3 years from now? Or are we going to be still 4 years? Are we still recovering from this thing because of the economic shutdown? It is not, it is not a lack of compassion to talk about economics. It's just not, man. It matters.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's, you know, it's funny too, because I think a society can sustain a certain amount, right? So we flattened the curve. We did a lot, you know, we did a lot right off. And again, we can debate that, right? You know, I mean, I'm watching all the different news things on like, well, Trump should have done this earlier. And then Trump's like, oh, well, there was only 14 cases. And, you know, we can go back and forth on exactly when, you know, and then he got highly criticized for shutting down China, right? From coming over.
He was such a racist. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, he got criticized for shutting down Europe and, you know, so, but regardless of wherever you lie on that timeline, you know, we did shut down America essentially.
We did.
And I think the faster we get back to normalcy, the better it's going to be for society. And like you said, man, like I ran a gym in 08, 09, whatever it was, our last recession, and it changed things 100%. I mean, it changed things. We survived, but it changed things. And I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the horizon, and I'm like, it could be 5 times, 10 times as bad. And I just hope that's not the case. But I know, and it obviously it's a totally different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
But it's a similar path of, you know, what happened to the market and what happened with people's jobs and things like that, even though this is greater already, it's already greater.
Yeah.
But I think that the faster we can get back to some kind of a normal society, functioning businesses, stuff like that, you know, we can flatten the curve of the recession and not have it literally the greatest recession of our lifetime, right? Because I mean, they're saying now this thing could be Great Depression numbers, not even the last recession 10 years ago, 11, 12 years ago, whatever it was, but, you know, back to Great Depression numbers. And that is terrifying to me.
Yeah. And you're talking double-digit unemployment for many, many years. And that was Great Depression numbers. You're talking high interest rates. You're talking inflation. You're talking, I mean, I mean, certainly we haven't seen that in our lifetime for sure.
Yeah.
And it's scary stuff. I don't, you know, let me ask you this, because this is, you know, kind of where I'm at, you know, and there's a lot of similarities between running a business and pastoring a church in a lot of ways. And I'm just curious about where you're at thinking about the future and that long term, because for me, you know, we're looking at this and same thing. We're going, this is changing how we do church, not for a month or two, but probably for the foreseeable future. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to be online and not meeting in person necessarily, but it's still, this is having a change in our culture. People are going to be more concerned about things like, you know, colds and flus and viruses and germs and all of that kind of stuff than they have in the past. And, you know, social distancing is probably going to have some kind of long-term impact on, you know, so we're processing. I don't have answers to a lot of this stuff. I'm just trying to figure out, like, So we come out of this thing. What does church look like at that point? I'm just wondering if you guys have been thinking about that for the businesses that you have and like that, how that's impacting you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest concern, the biggest worry is the unknown, because we have no idea, and especially Polis, he's been really wishy-washy on, because obviously Trump came out with his 3-phase plan to reinstate normalcy and all that kind of stuff. And then, Polis the next day came out with a statement that really said literally nothing. He said he's waiting for data, which I get it, right? But he literally didn't say anything. He's like, well, I'm going to have to see the data. That was literally what he said. I'm going to have to see the data before we make a decision.
Right.
And,
okay.
So when's that data coming out, and what source is the data coming from?
Right.
And, and I think it was him that said something, it could have been another politician as well, but I think he kind of mirrored it in saying that, well, we just have to realize that hugs and handshakes are going to kind of go away. And I was like, what? Like, wow. Like,
right.
You're changing what it is to be a human, especially in Western society. Like, when's the last time you didn't say hi to someone and shake their hand? In jiu-jitsu, we're a little more friendly. We give like the slap and the jiu-jitsu hug, right?
Yeah.
But, when's the last time you didn't shake someone's hand upon meeting them? And so just imagine, it's even weird now because, like, we were doing some construction, which is essential today, in the academy. And, so the guy that came in that was installing the mats, I have a professional construction company coming in doing it. And I was like, oh, it was like the first time seeing him. He's actually an old jiu-jitsu friend of mine from like 15 years ago. And, so I'm like, do I shake his hand? Do I give him like the Rona bump? Do I just say hi? And again, that's part of the transaction. That's part of the energy exchanged of being, whether it's in business or friends or family or whatever. And to say that society can't go back to hugging and shaking hands, I was like, wow. Like, that really hit me hard. I was like, wow. Like, that changes who we are. And so it was really profound for me.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting too, because one of my philosophies in ministry, and there's for a while that, especially in ministry, there was a lot of concern about things like just physical touch, and for some good reasons, obviously what's healthy touch, what's not, that kind of stuff, and good reasons for a lot of that. But some people in churches and things, I think, in my opinion, overreacted, and it almost became like this "don't touch anybody" thing. And I was kind of like, wait a minute here, and I'm not a super touchy person, although I've kind of learned some things, and now I don't know if I'm gonna have to unlearn them. But I was like, wait a minute, having appropriate physical touch and affection is important as a human, that human response to it. And, if the only touch you get is, bad touch, in the sense of somebody beats you up or you're getting abused or whatever, and you never get a hug, you never get, all that kind of stuff. Like, that can really do psychological damage to people. And, so when I hear Polis say that kind of stuff, I heard some of those same things. And I was like, man, I don't know if you know what you're asking for here. Like, this could be really, really bad and have a really, really negative impact on our culture. And in church, because we kind of, especially people I know in church, I'll give them a hug and stuff. And a lot of times it's a side hug or whatever, but all of a sudden you take that away, and maybe those people aren't getting any healthy affection anywhere else in their life. And then all of a sudden, at least they get it at church, or even at the gym. At least they get the bro hug or the jiu-jitsu hug or whatever on the mat, that healthy, hey, I appreciate you kind of thing. And man, you take that away. Although I think about jiu-jitsu and I'm like, dude, you still got a hug after jiu-jitsu. I mean, you just sweat all over each other anyways. Like, what difference does it make at that point? But I don't know, man. I don't know how it's going to change. We've been talking about, okay, so how do we, even in our church services, when people start coming back, do we set up the chairs different so that people have social distancing? What about our greeters? Do we train them how to greet differently? All that stuff, man, it changes a lot.
Yeah. And we don't know. I mean, again, it's really interesting too, because essentially Trump did what the federal government's supposed to do, which is, he said, okay, my job is essentially done. It's not done, but he's like, it's up to you guys now, and he made in this statement, I watched his speech 3 or 4 times. And then I went through the, there's a written statement on it all. Yeah. And he said, essentially, like, if you guys want to open up tomorrow, you guys are welcome to open up tomorrow. Yeah. And now it's in the governor's hands of what they want to do. And as we know, we have vastly different governors across the United States. And some are already, like in Texas, they're reopening. Some didn't shut down that much to begin with. South Dakota, yeah. Nome, good old Christie. Yeah. And, right, that's Christie Nome, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And so, and then we've got, Polis, which is much more on the safety side. So it sounds like he's going to really take his time opening up. And I'm like, well, I do Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, again, we're looking at on the mat, 6 feet apart, and do drills on dummies for a couple months, because I don't know, is this going to be a month till we're back in swing? Is it going to be 3-6 months? Right. And Polis said something like that. I was like, oh my God. Well, if he doesn't believe in handshaking, how are we going to do jiu-jitsu?
Exactly.
And, am I going to have to limit the amount of people in the building? What does that look like? And, thank God right now, I've been able to, I didn't lay off one employee. I was able to keep all my employees. I'm still paying them all. So they're able to earn an income. And, we pledged as a company, Peak, that me and Kirsten would not take a salary, and Peak would make zero money, zero profits for at least the next 60 days when this thing started. Yeah. And, just enough to keep the lights on, to pay rent, and to pay the instructors. But I mean, how long can a business keep doing that? How long can we sustain that? And, again, if it on the 29th or whatever the date's supposed to be, May 1st, if it opens back up and we're back to swinging, like, hey, awesome. My employees got paid and, the business survived. That's awesome. But man, if this thing goes on for 3-6 months later, like, gosh, like, what are we going to do? It's going to be, it's going to be really scary.
Yeah. 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 You can only do some of that stuff for so long. And that's the hard part. And people are, it's pretty scary. And I'm so blessed. I got one of the guys in my church owns a jewelry store. He's making nothing right now. There's what's he going to do? People aren't going to buy jewelry right now. That's not real high on their list. And I mean, he's trying to, I gotta call him again, as a matter of fact, but he's trying to repurpose some of his skills and to doing other things, maybe for medical industry and stuff like that. Maybe he'll be successful in that. He's a smart guy. He's creative. And I hope that, he'll figure that out. But man, I mean, that's a scary thing. Like, for him, providing for his family, even after this is over, it could be a pretty rough go for a while. I mean, jewelry's pretty much, that's your expendable income kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And the longer that this goes, it's the tougher it's going to be for him and people like that, the non-essential essential thing. And I just go, well, for him, that's his business is pretty essential.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny. I heard someone say the other day, he was like a leader in the fitness industry, and he went on this big rant, and he's like, no one's talking about the fact that you just got deemed unessential. Right. Like you guys, right? Like you guys are essentially deemed unessential. Is that correct or no?
Oh no, we're considered essential. Okay.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. But I know for my industry, like, we are unessential. Health and fitness is unessential. Right. And so, that's just, it's a really funny thing, because I didn't think about it until he said it. And I was like, oh wow, like, I'm literally considered unessential. Right. And we could go into, how much health and fitness and cardiovascular, good diets, all those things actually are going to prevent the virus way more than a lot of other stuff.
100%, especially this kind of virus, because it's all in your respiratory and whatever.
Yeah. But again, to be deemed unessential, I mean, I never thought about it until he said it. So he made me feel bad.
What? Did you feel bad?
So it's like, man, like didn't even think about that. Like, wow. It's just funny. And then, I have a student, we both know him, that's kind of high up in the marijuana industry.
Yes,
And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, we've had our best month ever.
of course.
He's like, we've doubled our numbers. He's like, we've made more money than we've made, ever before in a month. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like crazy.
Right.
Crazy.
Right. Yeah. And it's not even, the whole concept isn't even about whether you think marijuana should be legal or any of that stuff, but the idea that buying marijuana is essential but staying in shape isn't, like, that, does that make any sense? I mean, who makes these decisions,
Yeah.
And initially we weren't considered essential when this first came out initially. And then, a lot of the faith leaders were like, hey, wait a minute here. And kind of had pull his ear a little bit through some different connections and different things. Not me personally, but just different people. And they're like, hey, wait a minute. Like, you can't go shutting down churches. Like, that's going to be a serious place for people to find comfort, to find aid, if they need food. We've started a food drive at our church, and we just continue working with Action Center here in Lakewood, and it's just continuing. We just keep doing it. We're not really going to stop until Action Center's like, we have too much food. And then we'll be like, okay, we'll stop, but we're just going to keep helping. And we're trying to, so initially we were considered, unessential or whatever, not considered essential. And so it was like, wait. And I've thought a lot about the physical fitness side of things too. And because that's been such an important part of my life, especially in recent years. And I'm just like, somebody even asked on Facebook, like, what do you do to prevent yourself from getting sick? And I'm like, I stay in shape and I eat healthy. Like, that is the number one thing you can do. Stay in shape, eat healthy. And, you can do other stuff, but if you do that, then even if you get sick, at least you'll be able to persevere more than likely, and so, man, I don't know. I think it's essential.
Hey, me too, brother. And I get it. I mean, we already had pretty good I shouldn't say pretty good. For the industry, we had really good sanitation protocol at peak, and we upped it, when this whole thing happened, like massively upped it. Of course, there's got to be levels of what's safe and what isn't, but it's like, man, like, it's just so important. And I'm just saying that I bet you those grocery store carts are darn as dirty as my mats. That's all I'm saying. And the difference between my mats is maybe 30 people touch them a day and 1,000 people touch that stuff in the grocery store, So I think there's ways, you got to look at it like the full picture and logically, and just not just get hyper focused on, one thing. It's funny how people do that.
I saw a meme the other, I don't know when it was, on Facebook or something, and this lady was shopping and she's got the mask on and she's like looking at the shelf and her kid's in the cart. Did you see this one? Her kid, like her 2-year-old or something, sitting in the kid part of the cart and just like licking the handle on the cart.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's real, man. That's real for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens in the near future. I think it's I think the hardest part is the uncertainty.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are scared of, one of the guys I work with is just super safety minded, off the charts. And I tease him relentlessly. I probably shouldn't, but I do.
Before this, probably you teased him.
Oh yeah. No, it's as long as I've known him. I've known him for 12 years. And as long as I've known him, I've teased him about some of his, because he's Mr. Safety. He's like, oh, that's not very safe. And I'm like, so, and he that's just how he is. And he's got a little girl and stuff like that. But it is kind of funny because I think for people like that, and with all, in all seriousness, for people like that are kind of prone to that, like this is scary for them. This gets really scary, and it feeds into those fears. And maybe I'm not scared of enough things, but I really worry about the people who are scared kind of in their personality anyways. And then all of a sudden you've got the media going, oh my gosh. And it is bad in some places. I'm not saying it's not.
Absolutely.
Places like New York, like, man, I don't know. I don't know why New York's getting hit so much worse than some of the other big cities that have, but whatever's going on there, like, they have to do some significant things. And although it turns out it's not nearly as bad as they thought it was going to be either. But I do worry about people's mental health and having that outlet, physical outlet. all those kinds of things, and spiritual outlet. Of course, I think we've done a pretty good job. A lot of churches have done a pretty good job of kind of pivoting and doing some things different and still meeting a lot of needs. So, anyways, well, I don't know, man, it's going to be interesting.
I think too that, one thing that I think is really, we talked about looking at it, through a narrow lens, that each state is so different. And then within the state, I think too, every county and city should be treated different. And so anything statewide to me is crazy. I mean, I live an hour in the mountains from, civilization. So, the way and technically I'm in Jefferson County, but there's like Highlands Ranch and Littleton, Jefferson County,
right?
In Jefferson County, right? And I can't even see my neighbors. And so it's a different deal that the entire state is being treated kind of as one unit, when I think it's very, very different. Just like New York's a prime example, right? New York City, absolutely. But if you're way out in the woods in New York, I mean, those are two totally different things. And, surprise, surprise, you get, millions of people, you pack them like sardines into a place, well, what do you think's going to happen? Everything's going to go up, right? Crime's going to go up, and, death's going to go up, and, influenza and COVID-19 and everything's going to go up. And so I think that too, that the governors need to look at things from a county and then even beyond county, a city by city basis. Because I think it's very different. And I think the transmission rate, obviously, I'm not an infectious disease expert, but it just makes logical sense to me. I mean, if you follow the stats and you look at this statistics, they can't be treated the same, in my opinion.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. But our politicians, unfortunately, are making decisions, and I don't know who else is going to make decisions. It's got to be them, but I suppose. But I just fear it's kind of in human nature to get power hungry. Like you get a certain amount of power, and all of a sudden it feeds your ego. And this isn't about Polis or anyone in particular. I think all of them. It's all of a sudden they've got this power, and they have a lot of power right now, and they're shutting things down, and they're issuing decrees, and like a king or whatever, and people are just doing it. And man, to quote Lord Acton, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so I do worry about the power hungry kind of thing, and our liberties and all that kind of stuff. And of course now there's protests in Minnesota and Michigan and some places like that where they're starting to go, we've had enough.
There's one here in Colorado on Sunday too.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah. So
driving by the state capitol honking or something like that, or what?
I think from what I've heard, it was on NBC or CBS. I don't know. It was on something. And I think they're going to kind of do the Minnesota thing. It's my understanding on Sunday. So, the people are starting to get restless, the villagers are getting restless. So, which, I really liked Trump's response to it. Actually, I thought it was really great. He said something like, well, I hope they stay safe, and that's their right. Right. That's their right as an American. And I was like, good for you.
Yeah.
I've never protested anything in my life. So, that's not my gig, but hey, I think that's part of, the First Amendment, right? So, hey, let's let these guys do it. And I think too, that's a measure of where society's at. Like, hey, the villagers are getting restless. And I hope too, that, the politicians see that and realize that is a response to the pressure that they're feeling.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we need to do this more often. We should, we'll do this more often. And I don't know how long it's going to be till we can do it in person, but, anyways.
Yeah, man, I know I was like, just probably like a month out. I was, hoping to start doing some light rolls. So it was a month ago. I was hoping I was about a month out, to be able to start rolling. So I'm trying to stay strong and healthy. So that way, when we reopen back up, I can start rolling, man. Cause I tell you what, I miss it.
You haven't rolled in how long because of your knee?
6 months.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I was already on the edge of not happy. As
Right.
my wife, you didn't work out today, did you? You need to work out. Leave the room. And you know, because I'm a much better person when I'm working out. But I'm an even better person when I'm jiu-jitsu. It's just different, you know what I mean? So I've been trying to do just like the PT and lifting and stuff, but man, there's just nothing like that. And so I'm hoping when we reopen, we can get some rolls in, man.
Yeah. Although now you got me nervous. Like you're going to have all that pent up energy and it's going to.
No, just take it easy on me. My timing's going to be off. I'm not going to be as strong.
I can only hope. Yeah. So, well, good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, man.
And we'll text a little bit, figure out when to do this. I'll get this up maybe even tonight. So.
Yeah, maybe we'll bring on a guest or something. We've been talking about doing a guest for a while, so maybe we'll bring someone on.
Yeah.
I think we had the obligatory shutdown podcast tonight. You know, you got to talk about it, right? I'm sure it'll come up. I'm sure it'll come up again, but maybe we can talk about something else and get you know, one of these guys we've been talking about getting on. I think Perlman would be funny. Of course, Zach would be amazing. Sets an inspiration. But get someone else on too, and we can do it. We'll do it.
All right, sounds good, man.
All right, good to see you.
Good to see you.